Stratified here. It's a nice Sunday, and it's a nice time to do a little checkup on our Ford Focus RS, and also to upgrade the spark plugs to a one-step colder plug. So we're going to discuss why you want to do that and what plugs to use and so on very shortly. But otherwise, the car's been doing very well. We got some minimal modifications that we've put on the car. We've been focusing on our calibration, on our tuning, and we've just thrown a higher flowing filter here. And otherwise, we haven't done any hardware modifications. That's about to change as we progress through. Now, in order to get to the spark plugs and remove these, you need to remove the intake. So the intake on the RS, here it is, part of the intake piping. This side goes onto the turbocharger inlet. It has something to note is that the PCV port here is quite a bit larger than what you find on the ST, and there are two ways that the crankcase is vented in these cars. One is on a plate and an air oil separator that's bolted in behind the manifold to the block, and that air to oil separator there has a PCV valve, and it works while the car is under vacuum, not under boost. So it pulls the crankcase vapors through, it passes them through the air oil separator, and it pulls them back into the engine for them to be burned. Now, under boost, that valve closes, and only your valve cover vent, which is, you can see right here, this is the one that attaches to the intake there. That's the one that's going to be used under boost. So make sure that you keep these clear and as free flowing as possible, because otherwise you're going to start pushing oil out of your turbo. You're going to start pushing oil out of other parts of your engine, and you're going to effectively lose power. So if you do throw on a catch can on the car, an additional air to oil separator, make sure that it is you're not obstructing any of the flow. And now a couple of other things. So we noticed a little bit of oil film on the coupler. This is the coupler that goes onto the turbo inlet. Now on the ST, as the engine broke in, we didn't notice any more oil consumption at all anymore, this oil film. On the RS, because it does flow more through that PCV port, you might notice it a little bit more. It shouldn't be excessive. This is not excessive what we're seeing here, but if you do notice some, you're likely to be just fine. And now let's talk about the spark plugs. So we pulled out the OEM spark plugs here. Let's grab one of these and see if we can zoom in on what we're looking at here. So as you can see, the spark plug itself has pretty good coloration, and they're all even like this, all four of them, which is what you want to see. The gap on the OEM spark plug is 0.029. When we put in a one-step colder plug, we're going to go to 0.025, 0.026 is what we recommend. So if we could get this camera, there we go. So that's a nice shot of the OEM spark plug. Now this spark plug, if you look on the side of it, it's actually going to have made in Japan and an LTR6 label here on this band, and that's an NGK label, and what it indicates is the heat range of the plug. So a spark plug, what it does is that it of course ignites the mixture here at the electrode and the ground strap, but part of its purpose is also to pull heat away from the combustion chamber, and that heat goes into the head. And how does it do that? It does that through this, the body of the spark plug. And a colder spark plug will basically conduct more heat through this body section. Now the electrode and the insulator here on a very cold spark plug, you'll see them recessed into the body of the spark plug even more. That caused a lot of confusion as to whether or not the LTR7s from NGK are one step colder than stock, and they actually are. This is a 6, and the only way you'll notice that is, I'll throw up a picture, is that if you look at how deep this insulator goes inside the body. So on a warmer spark plug, which is the OEM, you're going to see that the insulator goes quite deep inside the body. So there isn't as much contact surface between the conductive part of the spark plug and the head because the insulator is so much deeper. On a step colder plug, which is this guy right here, which we're going to be throwing in, the insulator only goes less into the body of the spark plug. And that means that all this area here is used for conducting. Now, ITV22s from Denso are an equivalent spark plug to these guys from NGK. So these guys are the 6510s, and we have them on our website, but they don't come pre-gapped to the right spec. So make sure you gap this down. There's an article in our tech section, 0.026 to 0.025. And going back to the heat range, so this is a step colder plug for this car. Now, when you do start to wear into plugs, check them every 20,000 miles or so. When you do start wearing into them, you're going to see this gap naturally open up as you start to get some erosion on the ground strap. And as this happens, then it's time to replace the spark plug, and you might notice some misfiring at wide open throttle. If you do notice misfiring at wide open throttle, the spark plugs and their gap are the first thing to check. Other than that, I know that there's been some talk about the head gasket issue on the Focus RS on some cars. So there's your coolant reservoir, your overflow reservoir. This is a really easy way to keep track of your coolant level and see if any of it is disappearing. So your min mark is going to be right here. Your max mark is going to be right there. Make sure that you're checking at the same temperature. So if you're going to check the car cold, check it cold, check it level, the same level. And if you see that you're consuming coolant, then it's something to definitely look into. We're not consuming it in our vehicle, and this has been tuned from pretty much day one. So keep an eye on that. Of course, keep an eye on your oil level and so on. So I hope that addresses the questions in regarding to spark plugs. Our recommendation is to go one step colder on tuned vehicles. And any other questions, then drop us a line, give us a phone call. Our doors are always open. Most of all, enjoy your RS, enjoy your cars, and go out for a nice Sunday drive.